Hey, what's good, everyone? Ghazali Ohorella here. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. It is 1:15 a.m. in the morning over here in Glasgow. Had to do a couple of things to yeah, finish the day and also prepare for tomorrow because tomorrow will be another hectic day. Well, not hectic, enough things to do. And yeah, you want to be as prepared as possible. So I try to do, yeah, read up as much as possible, uh, write emails, documents, and everything else for for tomorrow. So hence why it's a little bit late. However, I always, well, probably yesterday the daily debrief was a little bit late as well. I hope try not to make a habit of it, but it is what it is. It's a debrief which you usually do at the end of the day, and this is literally the end of the day. And after this, I am going to close my eyes and hopefully and go to sleep, and then hopefully um, wake up in the morning rested. You're watching Daily Debrief. What I do is go through the events of the day at COP26 held in Glasgow, the Climate Change Conference, Climate Summit. There's so many ways and so many things, sorry, so many ways that people describe what's going on right now or call this meeting. Um, yeah, and so I thought, why don't I yeah, debrief or share in terms of like, what, it's funny, it's a little bit of accountability as well. It's holding yourself accountable to yeah, to your actions and to the people that, not just followers, quote unquote, but just in general, like trying to be historical correct, I think, and just to, and also, then maybe that's a better reason for it as well, is to yeah, to learn from your own mistakes, and also to share your own aha moments, failures, things you've learned, so that others may learn from that as well. Hence the daily debrief. Before I go into that, yesterday, what I did mention in the daily debrief was that I received a package from Pila, Esteban Show's son, and he gifted me several T-shirts, including this jersey from the Ustupu football club, and you probably cannot see it, but it says Esteban Show Castro. So thank you so much to Pila, everyone else that contributed to it, and obviously Ini as well for picking the right time to give it to me, because I was tired, and when he gave it to me, I was, yeah, I became a little bit emotional because this is the first meeting since 2 years, obviously since COVID, but also the first meeting after the passing of a very good friend, colleague, brother, Esteban Cho. So, and in a way, actually, you want to do good, also because he's not with us anymore. So Ini asked me to wear this jersey in the next daily debrief. So this is the next daily debrief, and obviously I'm wearing it. Jessica, thank you so much for your for thank you so up so late. I can't believe that. But appreciate it tuning in for a bit. Anyway, COP23, day 4. How did it start? For those who keep the score, I always start with the amount of minutes that it took for me to go from the to joining the line towards going into the meeting, and it's improving. Unit Triple C is, or the security of Unit Triple C is, yeah, probably more organized, obviously, and it took me in a total to keep a stat somewhere. I don't know of 45 minutes. So, an improvement of 60 minutes. Yesterday was 61 minutes. This is today was 45 minutes. So we're making progress. Also, I went a little bit earlier to the UN, obviously, so that I could make it to the caucus meeting, and to beat the long lines. So people that are going to the COP26 either go super early, meaning go at 5 a.m. 5 a.m. Wake up at 5 a.m. and go to the COP at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. Or, and that's the funny thing is, and what I've heard, I've never been to the COP beyond 11 a.m. But around 11 a.m. it is the time to get in is it only takes you like 10 minutes or something. So it's what obviously went inside and we went to the caucus meeting. If you were paid yesterday during the debrief, I shared about Article 6, the progress or the comments that were made or on the text, which is very important because we're wordsmithing here. That's what the whole negotiation is about. But also on the local communities and indigenous people's platform. I have a concern, which I said yesterday on paragraph 5 of the current text, and I wanted to go to the caucus meeting to address it. I was in time for the caucus meeting, so I wasn't too late. I was just in time before it started, and big room, and I was asked to give an update on Article 6 on try to everything that's happened within 24 hours. He tried to bring that back into like 3 to 4 minutes, which is very difficult. But the thing is, on the one hand, you want to update the caucus so that it is informed about what's going on and that they can report back to their own constituencies and to their own people, like this is what's going on. On the other hand, you know that it's Article 6 is super technical. So not many people are, I wouldn't say experts, but not very fluent in the complexity and in the nuances of Article 6. So it's a balance that you're trying to bring. So what I try to do is, all right, this is what we know so far, and start in broad strokes, the 30,000 feet view, and then give some action points that we did as a team yesterday, and also some action points what the caucus can do or how they can help the Article 6 team in terms of advocacy, which was I did. What I did is I can be, and others in the team are optimistic or happy. I would say I'm cautiously optimistic, having had the experience of Paris, having had the experience of the local communities and the indigenous people's platform negotiations, that, and also the Article 6 conversation in Madrid, that you should not, especially in the first week of a 2-week conference, knowing that things will escalate, will become more complex, bargaining chips will be dealt, and horse trading will occur. That in the first week, you shouldn't be too how should I say it? Too happy about positive positive things that you've heard. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but I do understand that people are happy because there was a lot of conversations going on yesterday, but also today, remarks or points that were raised by states under Article 6 informals on 6.2, 6.4, and 6.8 on human rights and the rights of indigenous peoples. And it all sounds like it has there's an emerging consensus. There's an emerging consensus in terms of maintaining language on human rights and the rights of indigenous peoples. Now, how will that eventually remain in the text at the end of the day, meaning on Friday next week? That remains to be seen, and that's we have to work hard because nothing is guaranteed until like that last at least until the session is gavelled to an end. So that's what we're working towards, obviously, and that was also the intent of today. Today, the first informal on Article 6 started at 10, so I had to leave the caucus meeting at actually at 10:30 of 9:30. However, I did want to on the next agenda item of the caucus was on the local communities and indigenous people platform, and they will be talking about those informal negotiations as well. And I want to drop my 2 cents on it, so I stayed a little bit longer. All right, so let's do that. The sidestep to the platform. I am not happy with the inclusion of current paragraph 5 that includes language that is, one, unnecessary, and two, what I'm afraid of is that that language can have an effect on, or so not an effect. If the language stays in, it can create a precedent or a opportunity for states dealing in bad faith outside of the UNFCCC and point towards it, like, hey, in terms of a resolution on the Human Rights Council or CBD or anywhere else, as, hey, this is agreed language under the UNFCCC. It is contemporary because it was adopted in 2021. So let's use that as include that in our new resolution on indigenous peoples, for example. That is what I want to prevent. That language that can be discriminative and dangerous. That language stays out of the negotiations. The paragraph that was suggested apparently was proposed by a certain state to focus on just local communities, but somehow, I don't know how, but it got into the text that it was applicable under local communities and indigenous people's platform. So in the broadest context of the work plan of the platform. And so to me, what I shared in the caucus was, all right, these are the reasons why, and I would propose or suggest that indigenous peoples call for the deletion of the text because it is unnecessary. There was some talk about a workaround from a negative iteration to a positive iteration. The issue remains the same because there's language in there that might be that can hurt indigenous peoples. So the only thing that I could do is propose, well, hey, delete the text and then leave it to the negotiators, or not negotiators, but the negotiator of indigenous peoples in the platform informals. I still don't know who's negotiating on behalf of indigenous peoples on the platform. So we and some others, we start to to seek contact with some member states or some parties and to find out, right, who proposed the language, what was the rationale, and also like to recommend to delete the text because it is unnecessary. So that was in broad strokes how the conversation went towards ensuring that the language on paragraph 5 as it current stands in the platform negotiations to be deleted. How it will develop, I'm looking forward to be updated tomorrow on how any developments, and hopefully is that the paragraph will be deleted. 10:30 and then 10:45, I had to run all across the venue to the Article 6 negotiations, which happen in two rooms, right? So you have room 5, which is only open for parties, and room 7, which is like an overflow room where other people can go into to track the meeting, which is webcast or through CCTV, and you can watch the negotiations from that room. Strange thing is, there's some kind of a policy or a rule that this overflow room, first party representatives can go in, and if the parties representatives are in, so they have the regular room 5, but it can also use the room 7 as an overflow room. They can go into that, but observers like myself, representatives from environmental NGOs, youth, women, other constituencies, we had to wait. And to the extent that the meeting was already starting and we were still waiting outside, because we were not allowed to go in. And then the secretariat gave us our flags, so there was these nameplates, and one of them was IPO. So I said IPO, so I raised my hand, and they gave me the flag, and I went in. I thought and there was a chair that said IPO, so I thought, well, then that's my seat. Okay, I can sit down. Apparently, the flag is just a indication that you can go in, but not take a seat at the table. So that lady that gave me the flag, after a couple of minutes, she came up to me like, "Hey, are you IPO?" I said, "Yeah, because you gave me my flag." Well, table seats are only for party delegates, not for observers. So I had to take a step back. So it is what it is. At least we got in. It's not ideal, but I think the best workaround for that is to just give us a bigger room, not those two small rooms to deal with Article 6, but like the big plenary rooms. I cannot believe that a very contentious issue like Article 6 is being dealt or being discussed in a small room. So it is something that something that I observed, but what more importantly was to observe the states and the remarks. So we started about 6.8, first about 6.8 on non-market mechanisms, and then about 6.4, but this is sustainable development mechanism, and then about 6.2 about about accounting. 6.8 was interesting because we didn't have language on human rights in there yet. So we did some overnight or early morning or late evening lobbying, and all of a sudden he had some states like Canada, New Zealand, Ecuador, Mexico, Costa Rica, Antigua, and all saying that human rights and rights of indigenous peoples is important enough that it should also be in 6.8, that it should be mainstreamed through 6.2, 6.4, and 6.8. So that was a very good development. And also there's some nuances, obviously, in placement and in wording, particularly Australia. That proposal, try to be pragmatic, but I think it is missing the point. Everyone is calling for human rights safeguards. Constituencies, indigenous peoples are calling for human rights safeguards, and that has been part of our lobbying strategy. Parties have adopted it in the wording, saying like protecting human rights and the rights of indigenous peoples. What Australia did was to flip it in a way that it's not a rights issue, but more as a tool, as a capacity building. So, what it proposed to further addressing human rights and to ensure that it is somewhat included in the design of these non-market approaches, to include tools to assist parties that wish to host non-market, NMA, non-market something. I just said a couple of seconds ago. Now I forgot. I've forgotten approaches, non-market approaches, to ensure that they can address issues around design and participation of indigenous peoples. Tools, so not rights, but we're talking about tools. So I think it's a weird proposal. It hasn't been echoed by other states, so it is my hope that they are not going to lobby for it, as in try to seek support from other states, as Australia. And I hope that countries like Canada, like New Zealand, like Ecuador, Mexico, Costa Rica, Antigua, that they maintain the position of protecting human rights and rights of indigenous peoples in line with the position of indigenous peoples and other constituencies. So that is basically what I've heard under 6.2, under, 6.8 on non-market approaches. 6.4 is a sustainable development mechanism. What was interesting was a lively debate. Again, Solomon Islands, Ian Fry, give that man a hat, an award, give the man everything he wants, because he, at some point, he said, "All right, everyone here needs a reality check that this international cooperation towards reducing carbon emissions. It's called a market mechanism, but the idea is to reduce carbon emissions." And he said, "Well, there's so many things that were hypocritical, things that were not considered but should be considered, and all the proposals that were laid on the table, they're not leading towards emission reductions. Actually, he's not even seeing that they're trying to bridge proposals." So that was interesting that he brought the like a reality check. Like, hey guys, this is what we're working with. And I see him as a representative of Solomon Islands, speaking for the LDCs, least developed countries, taking a more and more stronger, more vocal position. And I think that is what a lot of indigenous peoples support. The rationale, the tenacity, the determination that he brought, his words. And also Ian Fry, if you don't know him, he now speaks on behalf of Solomon Islands, but before that, he spoke for a very long time on behalf of the Tuvalu. So, not a unfamiliar person within the Pacific, definitely. Then, obviously, there were also states that had some concerns about language. Saudi Arabia, on behalf of the like-minded group of like-minded developing countries. A state before that spoke about the G20 language, the statement that was brought up by the group, the G20, and Saudi Arabia said, well, that it is against language from outside of the UNFCCC. That was linked to the statement of the previous speaker. However, in my head, it gives me a indication that any language that we want to introduce that supports human rights and the rights of indigenous peoples, Saudi Arabia could be okay with it as long as it comes from under the umbrella of the UNFCCC. So states, parties, in their contributions are giving tiny hints in terms of like what they allow and what they won't allow, and it's up to you. Listen, if you're in negotiations, it is up to you to listen and try to make sense of it. All right, what is he saying, but what is he not saying, and how will that work in my benefit? What he is saying or what he is not saying. Obviously, there's a lot of assumptions in there, but it is a good starting point towards as to give an idea before you go into a bilateral. So they approach countries like Saudi Arabia, like, hey, am I right to understand, or am I right to assume, or how do you think? Like questions that start with how or what, so that they give you information or intelligence. And we talked about it yesterday. Intelligence is key in these negotiations or in any negotiations. Again, Australia proposed tools for capacity building, and that's when I figured that this is a proposal into what they perceive or could perceive as a compromise, as a probably they see human rights as a sticky issue, so they want to provide a compromise. However, speaking to or through the team actually with representatives of parties in AOSIS, LDCs, Ecuador, Mexico, Canada, United States, and all the other countries, except for Australia, apparently, you could see that there is growing support, and there is no controversy in the sense that it is not. It is impossible to maintain the language in the text, and so I, at least that's how I interpret it. Is that it tries to be a compromise. However, it is a compromise that is, and here's the word again, unnecessary, because the wording is already in there, and there's enough support from key states and some additional states to maintain the language. And by additional states, I mean we were seeking supports from states on the independent grievance mechanism. The third ask of these peoples and other constituencies in this Article 6, particularly in 6.4. Right now, the grievance is delegated to this superior body, but we want to have an independent grievance mechanism. Nobody was talking about it up until today. There was a number of countries that addressed it. Ecuador addressed it. And also what was interesting is that the African group started to talk about independent grievance mechanism instead of a supervisory body. So all of a sudden, you have the African group active in favor of a proposal that we made, or that we advocated for. So that is good, so that you're creating, building a stronger foundation around the priorities that you have in the various sub-articles of the text. And that's what you want to build. You want to build champions. You want first foundation, and then you want to create champions. But foundation is super important. And you have some countries that were alluding to it. The Environmental Integrity Group, through Switzerland, said something about a interim grievance body, and I think maybe there's something lost in not a translation but in understanding that he was trying to convey what we wanted to say or what we said. However, it was misinterpreted, probably in bilat, or when one of us was talking to the Swiss representative on Article 6. So there was, as you can tell, and this obviously that is a small part of the many contributions that were made in negotiations, and it is hard, to keep track of everything. Physically, you're fine. Mentally, like it's draining because you need to keep on thinking, actually. And then meeting ended, and the chair actually gave a deadline. All right, 6 p.m. tonight. Parties need to submit their textual proposals, ensure that there's broad support, well consulted, and if possible, clarify who is supporting their proposals, and submitted by 6 p.m. And then the next morning, so tomorrow morning, a new iteration or a new draft will be released, which was for us as Team Indigenous Peoples in Article 6, as well as other constituencies. And a big shout out to a very good friend of mine and colleague, Erica Lennon, because we keep, it's like a tag team. We talk to each other constantly about, like, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And try to strategize accordingly. So we met and said, all right, so, and it's not just us, but there were quite a number of people that were. Ronaldo was with us. Johnson said, Michael Charles, Thomas Asla Yuso was with us, and Patricia from a Women and Gender constituency, and we were talking about, all right, how, knowing what we know now, there's new information. Knowing what we know now, do we want to improve the text or improve our proposed text, or do we want to maintain the text, the text proposal that we have? On several points, we said, maintain the text, maintain it. And some texts were proposed, some paragraphs we proposed wording so to strengthen it. You figure it out. You try to seek the right wording, and then you put it in a document. And then it is important that you distribute it to to the parties. So that's where we're at right now. We said hopefully the team have reached out to their counterparts within the parties, and hopefully it gets taken into account for, hopefully, in the next iteration, if not in the iteration of Saturday, because there's still within a timeline the intent to have another or final iteration or final draft on Saturday. Knowing, that was my day up until 8 p.m., something like that. And then you learn about, and you still get intel. You can still get information from parties, from indigenous peoples. Like, hey, I heard this, I heard that, and it's up to you to listen to the signal through the noise. because there's a lot of rumors, there's a lot of scuttlebutt, but it's up to you to determine like what is the signal in the noise. Um, yeah, that's basically it. Intense day. Had a little bit of dinner with teppanyaki with Tomo and Thomas, and it was fun. And yeah, got home and then did some work. Fast forward to tomorrow. Super busy day. I have obviously we have quite a number of sessions, informal sessions, in the big plenary hall on Article 6. So that will take the better part of my day. However, there's also an interesting side event organized by the institution from Australia, Lovicha, regarding health, indigenous peoples, and climate change, which I'm super excited about, which I want to attend and maybe learn obviously learn a little bit, maybe ask some questions. There's a side event on Coronivia, which I'm keen to learn more about, like with the latest updates. Loss and damage, I still have to pick up on Slack in terms of being up to date on that process. There's a side event in the Moana Pavilion, organized by the delegates from the Tuvalu delegation, and they asked me to moderate it. So that is something that I have to prepare for or be part of. There's several informal meetings, and all throughout that, I have also had to keep my eye on Article 6. So I don't know. Maybe tomorrow's daily debrief will be 2 hours. Not kidding. I won't make it 2 hours, but it is, as you can tell, we are gearing towards an gearing up towards week number 2. Week number 2 is going to be increasingly intense. Will be more intense. Faster developments, more noise, and which makes it harder for you to listen to the signal. And those are the things that you can tell that actually already starting today. But I can guarantee you tomorrow we are gearing up towards a more intense second week. Yeah. So far, still have my tea. Still have my bed. So I'm good. Tomorrow morning, I'll hopefully will be able to get up early. But the bed is so nice and comfy. It'll be hard. But yeah, that's it. That's it for daily debrief of day number 4 of COP26. If you have any questions, drop me a line, and I'll answer them throughout the day, or maybe I'll include them in the daily debrief. Hopefully, I've been of value to you, so you have an idea of what's going on under Article 6, particularly, but also like indigenous people in general at COP26. I wish you a very good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are, and looking forward to catching up with you on the next episode of Daily Debrief. Have a very good, yeah, I always said it. See ya. Cheers.